Boom, get this thing
Do it.
going, get this game going. Okay, awesome. So welcome back, everyone. This is week 11 at Getting Back to Work, sponsored by Openpath. I am Bert, legendary warrior of design, and my co-host for today is Mandy Myers, marketing and content guru.
Oh, you're too
Legend.
kind. You're too
Legend.
kind.
There we
Stop.
go. There we go. I hope everyone that is here on time, I hope you all are doing great. It is Thursday. We are literally almost to the weekend.
Woo. Thank goodness.
Awesome. So I'm going to kick this thing off with the first article that we're going to cover today. We got three. This is numero uno. So the first article that I'm coming with today is from The Economist. It's titled, COVID-19 has forced a radical shift in working habits. And in this article, to sum it up best I can, awesome read, but to sum it up, it basically talks about like 4 or 5 different major European countries and how they are handling the working remote, or the white collar workers who are working remote, and the different processes and data that they're pulling from this situation. So it talks about how in the past, before the pandemic of COVID-19, the question was, is it more efficient to work from home? Is it more efficient to work from home when everything that you need is at the office? Personally speaking, growing up in Mississippi, when I went to work, you had to be there. Even if I'm just sending emails, you have to be there because someone has to see you. So it talks about that, and then it also talks about like what everyone is going through now and how they're doing different studies to show that, like, hey, you can be like, people can be efficient, in their own remote space or whatever.
Absolutely.
So also, with that being said, they talk about a few different protocols that companies are doing to make the workspace, I guess, a little bit more safe. From like, one company turned off their their air system, their recirculating air system, just to kind of like take extra precautions against COVID-19. They also talked about, within this article, they talked about how, people are more productive now, because there are a lot of things that we faced when we were in office, and one of those things was like, how you might have like a meeting that you didn't necessarily have to go to, and it's just like, man, that could have just been handled in an email, and now because we're all, for the most part, all remote, a lot of those situations are being handled over email, which in the end makes a person, more efficient, at their job and what they're doing. They also talk about, some statistics in terms of how people are taking less sick days and stuff like that, which I found quite interesting. Because I mean, you're still working, but not necessarily taking a lot of sick days off and stuff like that. But it's a really good article, and I think it's a little bit of a read, but I think you should definitely check it out to find out more about those different statistics and how they compare like certain things that are going on in the U.S. and a lot of things that they're faced with over there.
I think that this article that I have piggybacks pretty well off of yours.
Awesome.
Bloomberg, and it's titled "When to Stop Working from Home." All about and woolly. So the title, it makes it sound like workers are going to be to the office than they actually will be. They would much rather continue doing their jobs from home at least a few days a week.
Yeah.
And it's not that it goes on to say it's not that most of these workers can't stand the idea of going back to the office, it's just really more so that they come to enjoy working from home as well as some of the benefits that it affords them,
Yeah.
And I don't, I don't know what it is with me and pulling articles that are just like based around surveys,
Yeah.
but this one also, surprise, surprise, mentions a few surveys and numbers here as well. This survey was done by Wells Fargo / Gallup, and it was released this past Wednesday, actually, and it found that 42% of 1,100 workers that these guys surveyed in August had a positive view working remotely, and then versus 14% who viewed it negatively. That's a very small percent.
Oh, yeah.
And also, almost a third of 1,200 U.S. office workers surveyed, another survey by consultancy PricewaterhouseCoopers back in June, said they prefer to never go back to the office, while 72% said they like to work away from the office at least 2 days, at least.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, I could vibe with that too. Again, we've been talking about hybrid options and all that stuff. Those kinds of alternatives. But yeah, even with this in mind, employers like JP Morgan Chase are requiring their most senior level and sales staff to actually return to the office by next Monday, the 21st. And of course, this excludes those with compromised health issues and childcare issues and whatnot.
Yeah.
But then again, alternatively, we have other employers that are encouraging rather than like forcing their employees to return to work. So, and I think that's probably the best approach to go here. It's kind of like, hey, yeah, we miss you. Come back. But yeah, beyond this, the article also goes into how remote schooling has made it difficult for employees with children to return to work. We all know this. Like, many of us who actually have children are struggling with this. This is a almost everyday thing for parents.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and it goes on to talk about how the Wells Fargo / Gallup survey showed a bit of a divergence between men and women when it came to certain attitudes on remote work.
Yeah.
Naturally, it was viewed much more positively with women than it was with men, as of course, like it enables women, to be able to actually work and not have to constantly juggle their professional lives with their family lives, and that's very important.
Oh, yeah.
And then finally, I'm going to leave off here with one more tidbit from another survey the article mentioned. So in June, a management consulting firm called Korn Ferry, Korn Ferry, just a different name. Korn Ferry surveyed 1,000 professionals and asked a simple question: what are you most looking forward to when you return to the office? And about half pointed to camaraderie with their colleagues, of course. But this is the one that kind of like tripped me up a bit. I had to laugh. Meanwhile, another 20% said they look forward to nothing at all, to returning to the office. Very blunt, but ouch. But I also, I think that number might decrease. If we, I feel like that same 20% might be able to ease more back into that, physical office work life if there was a bit of a hybrid setup. They were, maybe they were able to or offered the ability to work remote 2 to 3 times a week.
Yeah.
It would just strike a good balance, I think. And give those with children the ability to actually kind of work around that kind of hybrid setup,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, Bert, I think that's all for me this week. How about from you?
Okay.
You
All
got
right.
another
So,
article for us?
all right. For our very last article, it comes to you by Vice. It is titled "You're Not Going Back to Normal Office Life for a Very Long, Long Time." And in this article, it starts off with talking about how Facebook, um, you know, initially, started out taking the precautions for their workers and, doing the different things that they needed for their workers to go remote. And it talks about how, Mark Zuckerberg, kind of put a few statements out in terms of him being, optimistic about the future and them, like his workers coming back to work. And then it goes into, it basically deep dives into like how a lot of white collar workers who are working remote, kind of loves it, and it works out great for them because, they can handle their essential tasks at home. And then it also goes into, the opposite of that. It talks about how, the people who have to be like in office, like how that like affects them. And it like, it kind of like, for me, it kind of makes me think a little bit more about them when I'm like all nice and cozy in my pajamas and happy that I'm still able to work and bring in some income because, we often, when the shoe is on your foot, we often don't, necessarily think about the people who are like, who can't go back into the office. So it talks a little bit more about, the people who are like faced with those challenges of like, hey, I need to be in the office to do the work that I do, and it is like, and how that's like affecting them, and it also talks about how, those white collar workers who are like home now, how that's like affecting the economy in terms of like, the usual traffic that most people would get. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and I thought it was really interesting because it touched on this whole idea of how, the structure of going to work and how like this used to be something where a paper-based system where you have to be in office, you have to be in an office to like, handle these different tasks. But we've like followed the same structure for like many, many, many years, and and it's 2020 now, where like most things are digital and a lot of things can be like, handled, remotely, and it brings that like, I guess it brings that thought to mind of like, maybe this is a good thing, maybe
Right.
this is a good change to like actually feel comfortable with your workers actually working remote, and hopefully like in the future, when this whole thing is over, that it wouldn't be so taboo to like say, hey, maybe I'm gonna be at home. Maybe I'm gonna be at home for this week or something like that, because I know like, again, me talking personally, me like growing up in Mississippi, going to work 8 to 5, you have to be there. They have to see your face. Even if you're just going to work to send emails and stuff like that, they have to see your face. And I think that all has to do with like this whole mindset or this like structure that we, set in place when everything was paper based. And I thought that was really interesting. And it also touched a little bit on, kind of what you mentioned, Mandy, in your article about how, the working mom. It also talks about like how, some things are opening up. Some schools are allowing people back and some aren't. And it talks about how the working mom, now has to work at home and also like, not just the working mom. I'm pretty sure there's like, dudes or whatever taking care of the kids and stuff like that.
Working moms,
yeah, working dads, working moms.
Both exist. Both are struggling.
Yeah, I don't want to leave anybody out. But it talks about like how that's like even more of a challenge now because they don't have like, the usual daycare that they will go to. So they have to be like teachers and they have to like do their work all at the same time, and it's a really good article. You guys should definitely check that one out.
No, that's hard. Big props to all the parents out there.
Yeah.
All I have is pets and a plant that I barely keep alive. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine right now with them all struggling and juggling. So big props.
No, I know, most definitely. I mean, all I have is my 2 dogs and my cat, and I would definitely say my relationship with them has grown a lot.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, some more positive. Some more positive, don't we?
Yeah, I'm not necessarily sure if it's all good because sometimes they can drive me crazy, but definitely this working from home situation has, made those
Most
bonds.
relationships.
They have made
Most
those bonds
relationships
close.
are like that.
But yeah, awesome.
Hopefully not. Okay. All right. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, this has been great for everyone who showed up on time and everyone who trickled in. I really appreciate it. Mandy, appreciate you coming in and sitting with us, and hopefully we can see you all again next week. Definitely go to the inside.online and subscribe, or check us out on the inside accesscontrol.com and check us out, subscribe.
And
again,
check out Openpath too while you're at it.
Yes, definitely. Check out the Openpath. This is being sponsored by Openpath, so please check them out as well. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great weekend and that the sun is shining wherever you are. And we will definitely talk again next week.
Bye.